Good day, everyone. Welcome to Van Chicagoland Stories, the podcast. I'm your host, Pete Costanas, and today's date is October 17th, 2021. This is episode 68, season 3. Um, I have a very interesting show coming up. There are four things that I will discuss that are featured in this program, but right now, the show will go into a commercial break. And this program is brought to you by Betty Crocker Snack and Cake. And here's a commercial from 1977. Enjoy.
Good things inside make it taste so great. Try Betty Crocker Snack and Cake for goodness sake. Taste the good things you bake in a Betty Crocker Snack and Cake.
It's good things like these and plenty of them that make Betty Crocker Snack and Cake so delicious. And you just mix with water, bake, and serve in the same pan.
Taste the good things that bake in a Betty Crocker Snack and Cake.
Okay, I am back. I hope you enjoyed the commercial. A little trivia about this particular brand and the actor who was in the commercial. You can find that on YouTube. One of the kids featured in the commercial was Adam Rich. He was an actor. He portrayed Nicholas Bradford on Eight is Enough, and that show ran from 1977 to 1981. And also on the last episode of the show was Ralph Macchio, and he played, I forget, his name was Jeremy. He was a cousin of Abby, which is Tom Bradford's second wife. And he joined the show, and he was unknown. Nobody knew who he was until later on he got his big break as in The Karate Kid in 1985, and it's a classic, 1980s classic. I like the movie, but I'm not obsessed with it. It's very good, but I like Pat Morita, who played Arnold in Happy Days. I loved him in that movie. He was wonderful, wonderful. But he was a funny man. I mean, but he took a serious role, but I can't help it. I thought he would do something goofy in the movie, but he didn't. So that was fine. Also, one other trivia in the show that the actress who portrayed the mother, Joan Bradford, was Diana Hyland. And at the time, she was John Travolta's girlfriend, and she was a lot older than him. And she died in 1977. She only filmed 4 episodes. And the next season, they wrote in her death. And then Tom Bradford, played by Dick Van Patten, married Abby, played by Betty Buckley. And then she stayed for and then they dated. And then they got married on the show, and they stayed until the end. And Diana Hyland died, like I said before, in 1977. And I think it was right around the time that John Travolta was working on his classic movies, Saturday Night Fever. And so that's kind of sad, but so long ago, my goodness, that's a very interesting story. Okay. I want to talk about a couple of things before we start the show. Yesterday, I went to Wizard World, comic book convention in Rosemont, for the first time in a couple of years. They did not have the show in 2020 due to the fact of the pandemic, and that was canceled. I went yesterday, and it's a smaller venue, and not many. They had the usual stuff: comic books. They sold jewelry, cards, all kinds of stuff. I like going there. I've been going there for over 20 years. But like I said before, it was a smaller venue. But hopefully next year will be bigger once the pandemic is gone and everyone gets vaccinated. And there were some celebrities there. I didn't talk to them, but I saw them afar. Like, for example, Lou Ferrigno, Dean Cain, who played Superman in The Adventures of Lois and Clark. William Shatner was there. And I saw him far away, but he's 90 years old, so he doesn't stay very long. But, I wish I would meet him because he went into space a couple of days ago. God bless him. And then when I saw that, I hear the Star Trek theme in my head. That's amazing. So I had a good time. It was very nice. Hopefully, we'll see about next year. Okay, and then one more thing. This past Friday was the 70th anniversary of I Love Lucy, and it's a one of my favorite shows of all time. Lucille Ball, I just love her. I can't get her out of my mind. I'm just the people who are fans of her are called Lucy Files, I believe. So on Friday night, I pop in the Blu-ray DVD of the show, and I watched the first episode, which was the girls want to go to a nightclub. Believe it or not, that is not the first episode film. That is the first episode that aired. The first episode that was filmed was episode 4, called Lucy Thinks That Ricky is Going to Murder Her. And you could, by watching that show, you could tell it's a little like they're getting their feet wet, and the way they filmed it, but it was still hilarious. It's still a funny show, but I can understand that they pushed it back to the 4th episode. But I watched that episode too, and I compared it. So I've seen the show a zillion times ever since I was a kid, and I don't have favorite episodes. Every episode is hilarious. Well, there's one that stands out that I like. I don't know if a lot of people like it. Um, it's one starring Elsa Lancaster, maybe her name, who played the Bride of Frankenstein. And she was in the show, and Lucy and Ethel were headed to Florida. But Lucy, being Lucy, misplaced the train tickets. So they looked in the ads in the paper, and wanted to share a ride. So they found somebody, and it was Elsa Lancaster, and they rode the car, and they suspected she was an ex-murderess and that escaped from the prison, and she wasn't. And it was hilarious. It was the funniest thing. On the way to Florida, they had a flat tire. Ethel changed it, but Lucy put the flat tire instead of the new one, and they started all over again. And then when they arrived to Florida, they stopped at the diner, but the other lady just dumped them, and then she drove off, and then they had to hitch a ride on a chicken truck, and then they arrived in Florida, which I thought was funny. But there are other classic episodes I like, so that was fun. So hope it lives on forever. It's a great show. Okay, back to business. I will talk about 4 topics on this show. Number 1 will be the Jewel Grand Bazaar grocery store. Second will be the John T. Shayne clothing store. Number 3 will be about Kittytown, the amusement park that was located in Norridge, Illinois. And the last thing I will talk about is Officer Leonard Baldy. A lot of people don't remember him. They probably assume he's just an ordinary police officer, but he was famous for something. And I will explain that at the end of the program. Okay, first off, we're going to talk about the Jewel Grand Bazaar. As you know, Jewel Food Stores has been around in Chicago for many, many years. But in 1973, they did an experiment on a store, and they named it the Jewel Grand Bazaar. And the first one was located at 54th Street and South Pulaski Road on the southwest side of Chicago. And it was a 24-hour store, and they featured bulk packaging and free samples on the weekends, which they do now. It sounds like a Costco to me, or a Sam's Club, like that. I never shopped those stores, and because, well, first of all, I'm single. I think that's for families, and they buy in bulks, and it's reasonable. Plus, you have to pay membership. So I just go to a regular store like Jewel or Mariano's, but mostly Jewel I go. Anyway, so that was very successful, but it didn't last very long. And then usually they had a Jewel and an Osco. It was always a combination. That's still true to this day. And the second one the second store that opened was in 1974, and that was at 87th West 87th Street in Chicago. That is the Chatham neighborhood by the Dan Ryan Expressway. And in 1977, they opened a third one, which was at the Brickyard Mall, which is at Diversity and Narragansett on the north side. And the fourth location was in Franklin Park, Illinois. And there was also one at Grand Avenue and Costner on the Chicago West side. And I can't think of any other location. I think that's it. And then about the 1990s, that changed. And they went back to a regular Jewel grocery store. But they still carry on the traditional bulk foods that lives on to this day. And believe it or not, when the Brickyard Mall changed around in the early 2000s, the Grand Bazaar store was demolished and they replaced it with a small Jewel's grocery store. Interesting. Excuse me. So I remember going, oh, there was another one I remember. There was one on 95th and Pulaski, and that was in Oak Lawn. And I used to go to that one. Yeah, and that was close. We're in the 70s, 80s, where I lived in the southwest side of Chicago. And my mother shopped there too. She liked it there because she was on her way to see her friend or other places. That Jewel is still there. Now it's just a regular Jewel store. Okay, but people still remember when it opened, where they worked, especially at that location at 54th Street in Pulaski. And they said it was wonderful. But now grocery stores in Chicago or all over the country, they have the same thing. So if free samples, you buy everything in bulk, you know. So that's an interesting part of Chicago history. And I posted a photo of the location at 54th and Pulaski, which is a night photo. And that's a beautiful photo of that. It's on my Facebook page on Van Chicagoan. Okay. Next thing we'll talk about is about a store, excuse me, called John T. Shayne and Company. A lot of people don't remember this store, but if you shop downtown in the old days or lived there, it was a very chic clothing store for women. It was a hatter, haberdasher, and furrier company, and only for women's clothing. And it opened in November 6, 1884 by John Thomas Shayne. And let's see, and it first located at 187 South State Street in the Chicago Loop. Then it moved to 150 North Michigan, and it was there until the store closed in 1979. And I found I didn't find much on the internet, any photos, but I did find a hat, a woman's hat, and a hat box, and it had the logo of John T. Shayne. I thought it was pretty cool, so I posted it on my page, and it was very chic. There were stores like that in downtown as well. They were similar, like for example, Evans Furrier, excuse me, or William A. Lewis, and also Bramson's, and a lot of women's clothing. And then later on, there was Rosalie, which my mother shops. She loved that store. She misses it to this day. And there was another one called Allison's, and that opened at Fort City Mall and some other malls in the area. I can't think of other ones again on the top of my head. Oh, there was another one called Padders. It's spelled Paddor. Paddor. Excuse me, with an S. So that's an interesting store to look at. I'm sure the clothes were beautiful, And then when you go to 150 North Michigan, if you're over there, you can just visualize that store was there. That's very interesting. Okay. Next thing I will talk about is Kittytown. Kittytown Amusement Park, that is. And that amusement park opened. Excuse me, I've been coughing all day long. Forgive me. That one opened in the summer of 1953, and it was located where Harlem Irving Shopping Center is, which people call it the Hip in Orange, Illinois. The shopping center opened in 1955, 56, but believe it or not, the amusement park was still there, and it was on the north side of the mall. And some of the rides they had the Tilt-A-Whirl, merry-go-round, the Little Dipper. That was the roller coaster over there. That came. They installed that about 3 years later. In 1956, they had the Whip, the boats. They had boats, the Skyfighter. They had and let's see, Midget Racer, hand cars, and a tractor ride, and a 5-car Ferris wheel, and a miniature train, which I'm going to get it. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And they had pony rides there for the kids. And the funny thing about that is they also had a kiddie train, like I mentioned before, and you would go through a tunnel and a bridge. Sounds like a lot of fun. I wish I rode that. And this was sponsored by the Bowman Dairy Company, and in the 50s. So a lot of people remember that milk company. The other one was Hawthorne Melody, which I'll probably discuss that in a future episode about those milk companies in Chicago. And on the weekends, where if you reserve a birthday party for your child, they would have a small red fire engine, and they would play its loud siren all over the neighborhood, and some kid was going to have a birthday party, and they're going to Kittyland. And the first ride, of course, would be the fire truck. And there's pictures of that on the internet, and it's kind of cool. They still do stuff like that. And they used to pick up the fire truck. They used to pick up the kids at their homes and then take them to the amusement park, which was kind of so. Whenever they never used the truck for the birthday parties, they used it for a ride. When not in use of that. So that's interesting. Then Kittytown closed in 1964, and they didn't say why. It seems like the same reason for Riverview, which closed in 1967. There was revenues were down. Neighborhood got a little sketchy. Not true at Kittytown, but and they sold all the rides just like at Riverview, and then they replaced it with other businesses. And an interesting thing happened this week, which was the Santa Fe trains at Kittytown were found in a barn in Upper Michigan, in the state of Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula. People call it the UP. And this guy must have bought them when the park was sold and closed, and he kept them. And now they're in a museum called the American Farm Heritage Museum in Greenville, Illinois. Interesting, So they had an article in the Chicago Tribune. If you happen to find it online or you have your paper, you could read it. And I read the article, and it's very interesting. A piece of Chicago history was found, and it's been hidden all these years elsewhere. Should put the hopefully it'll be kept in a museum, or like I said before, it's in Greenville, and hopefully it will be in Chicago, so people will go see it. I would love that. And interesting thing about this, the roller coaster that was called the Little Dipper, that was in Kittytown, it moved to Hillcrest Amusement Park in Lamont, Illinois. And after that, I don't know. I think I don't know what they did with it afterwards. So maybe I'll discuss that. The amusement park that was located in Lamont. So I read, like I said before, I read the article about Kittytown, and it was very interesting. I love when they find rides from past amusement parks, like for example at Riverview. Like I said before, one previous episode, the carousel at Riverview Park is now at Six Flags in Georgia. So if you happen to be going to Georgia, you could go see it, which I intend to do that someday. Okay. Last thing I'm going to talk about is police officer Leonard Baldy. Now, he's not a name you would recognize immediately, but a lot of people in the old days would, because he was somewhat a Chicago celebrity, a local celebrity, and he was the first helicopter traffic reporter, and he worked for the Chicago Police Department, and he used to be on the radio at WGN. I think he was on television, probably. I'm not sure, but mostly he was on WGN radio, and he gained fame when he was riding his helicopter over that fire at Our Ladies of the Angels School that was located on the west side of Chicago. And they would show footage of him flying over with his helicopter with his co-pilot, and also heard on the radio. And he would describe the fire, and also he provided traffic instructions so you would avoid the area. So, and let's see. So a funny thing, well, not a funny thing, excuse me. I mean, he died in May 2nd, 1960, when he was in his helicopter with his co-pilot, and it crashed. And it crashed at the location of Milwaukee Avenue and Hubbard Street. And that was like a railroad yard at the time. And it seemed, let's see, trying to remember. Oh, this is how it happened. His threw a rotor blade, so it probably came off, and then he just crashed like that. They were both killed, and it was very sad, about that. And after he died, they retired his badge number, which was 1451. He went to Lane Tech in high school, and he was a World War II veteran. And so he had his he worked as a he worked as a police officer, and he also did this job. And then a lot of people, so when I posted about him, I found him fascinating. I posted it on my Facebook page, and a lot of people remembered him, believe it or not, probably older people. But I loved reading about that stuff. And he had two sons. One of his sons became a radio personality. His name is Jack Elliott. And in 2006, his other son, Tim Baldy, he published a biography called Chicago's Finest. Now, that's an interesting book. Maybe someday I'll buy it and read it. That sounds fascinating. It really does. And such a tragic thing happened. It really is tragic. And then, from what I understand, there were other local celebrities that did the same job as he did, and they died as well. So I don't know their names at the top of my head, but I'll do some more research and maybe discuss it in a future episode. So Leonard Baldi was 33 years old, and he only served at the police departments only about 6.5 years. And his assignment was traffic division, of course, So that's so young to die, and leaving a family. Very sad. Okay. All right. That'll be all for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. I discussed the Jewel Grand Bazaar, the John T. Shayne clothing store, Kittytown Amusement Park in Norwich, Illinois, and police officer Leonard Baldi. I will do another episode probably Tuesday. I'll find some subjects to discuss. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm getting the hang of it. One more thing. Somebody commented on one of my podcasts. I do a lot of ums and all that. I want to apologize. I'm very nervous, and it's a terrible, terrible habit I do. I'm trying to get better. It's not easy. I'm so nervous, even though there's nobody here with me, but I'm speaking to you and the rest of the audience. So I'll get the hang of it. Just please forgive me. I will do my best. Just be patient. I'll do what I can. Okay. So this is Pika Stanis, and this is episode 68, season 3 of Vanishing Chicagoland Stories. Take care, everybody. And here is Ray Rayner saying bye-bye for now. So long, everybody. Bye-bye.
We have to go. Bye, bye, bye.